Hi there, how are you doing? Hope you are keeping well. Now this week the video is going to be a lot shorter than usual. I can hear you all think, thank goodness for that as well. The last ones are nearly half an hour each. Well, this one I assure you will be much shorter than that. There's a few reasons for that. The biggest one actually is there's lots of holidays here in Hong Kong this week. I'm recording this in a couple of days. I'm actually on holiday myself. I'm on vacation right now. Which means I'm stuck in the house because that's what we do on vacation in these rather odd times. But there's also some public holidays here. We've got Buddha's birthday and Labor Day, and I think Labor Day around the world is varying at times, but will be happening later on for others as well. So I hope you enjoy the day off, whatever you end up doing. The other thing is we had some pretty good news this morning in Hong Kong, in that it looks like some of the restrictions on what we can do are slowly going to be lifted. The number of cases we've had here have slowly been dropping off. We've had 0 cases reported for a couple of days. And the reason I wanted to mention that was no legal reason, no technology reason, anything like that. It's just I know a lot of people are stuck indoors and having a pretty miserable time wondering if this will ever end. It feels like life has changed so much. Well, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. It's one of the things you've got to get through, and hopefully eventually we'll get to whatever constitutes normal in the future. I'm sure it'll be a more technology dominant world than it was before, but we'll see. Although it's entirely possible everyone will be absolutely sick of speaking on video conferences and nobody will want to see a webcam ever again. Certainly have to admit I'm getting that way, but in terms of me and my work, it looks like I will be back in the office next week. I know lots of people are back today. The other reason, incidentally, for this being a short video is I've got a very busy week because I have a secret other job where I do a music radio show every week, and I do extra shows on some public holiday. That's something to look forward to too. Now, what am I going to talk about? This is a follow-up to my last video, which is on the very basic concepts, which was that of a data controller, data processor, and data subject of data protection. I looked a bit about laws around the world and pretty much cursed myself because I spent a lot of time in a conference call yesterday talking about laws, data protection laws in various states of the US, which is a lot more complicated than I anticipated. So I have to thank my US colleagues for working on that one. It was, Nevada, California. It's a very much a hodgepodge, piecemeal approach to things, but there we go. But I want to talk about something that's still very much a basic, and this is a privacy statement, or as they call it in Hong Kong, a personal information collection statement. Trips off the tongue, or a PICS if you want to call it that. I prefer privacy statement. Now, I'm going to send you way back to when I must have been probably about 11 or 12 years old, and I used to go bowling. It doesn't look like we would sort of person who would go bowling. Bowling was trendy for some reason at the late 80s, early 90s, and there was a bowling alley opened near where I lived. And it was cool because not only was it a bowling alley, it had laser tag upstairs and it had loads and loads of arcade machines. And you could imagine that's probably my thing I was most excited about. And I don't remember much about bowling other than I was terrible at it. But one thing that sticks with me was you'd register to get a lane, so you'd give your name and your phone number. And I remember a guy getting really angry with the sales assistant, the person working the bowling alley. He was clearly on minimum wage, because she'd basically said, okay, to get a bowling alley, not only do I need your credit card details or some cash up front, I just want your name, address, phone number, date of birth. And he was arguing, why do you need these? Why do you need this information for me to book a lane at a bowling alley? And at the time, being a kid, I was like, just hand them over, otherwise you won't get to go bowling. But that has obviously stuck with me, because when you think about it, often we don't ask why people want data from us and what it will be used for, and whether it's actually proportionate to what they actually need the data for. And that, at its very heart, is the importance of a privacy statement. So a privacy statement, at its most basic, it basically states when you're collecting data from someone, it states what data you'll be collecting, how you'll be collecting it, what it will be used for, how it will be stored, whether it will be passed to any third parties, how you can access it, and also how you can get it deleted. They vary in forms depending on where you operate around the world. Some jurisdictions have specific requirements you have to put into them. GDPR is probably the most obvious example. Others don't. It's a bit more free form. Hong Kong's actually not too bad. There's one of the data protection principle deals quite well with it. So I'm actually quite proud of the law on that one at least. But it makes it absolutely clear what the data can be used for, and it's really important. Now, many organisations, unfortunately, produce one. It goes on their website, it goes in a file somewhere, it gets given to people when they collect data, and it never gets updated. So, for example, if they were collecting information on date of birth, I don't know, socio-economic status, such as salary details, and what else, I don't know, family members, how many family members or dependents you have, and then they start collecting something else, they may not have updated the statement. So it's really important that you do that. The other thing is to make sure that it's very accessible, that people can see it. Essentially, if you're collecting data, your data privacy statement is something that makes sure that you are doing the right thing, that you can be seen as not collecting data with ill will or in breach of applicable law, but it makes sure that you're collecting it legally and that you're telling your data subject how it's being done legally. You'll tell them how they can access it, how it can be deleted, who they can contact, usually a data protection officer within your organization, or external, indeed, if it's the GDPR. You're telling them how they can have that data correct and how they can speak to someone. Massively important. And I'd like you all to go away and check and make sure that it's up to date, and that if you are collecting data, that actually you're stating how that data is collected and how it's used, and make sure that it's accessible, make sure everyone can read it. If you're operating in different countries, make sure it's in every language where the person can read it, otherwise you may fall foul of data protection law there too. But I also want you to go and do something else. Now, I often think of data protection as having a hole in your pocket and you're dropping change out everywhere you go. Certain little bits of money, certain bits of loose shrapnel, and someone might be picking them up as you're walking around. Think of you as dropping little packets of data everywhere you go. So you may give someone your name, you may give someone your date of birth, you may give someone your face for a facial recognition scan, you may give someone more interesting detail, you may give them the DNA details, you may give them your medical history. But we drop little pieces of data and we don't necessarily know where they're going or what they're being used for. And this, indeed, is a problem because you don't know. You're leaving behind you this whole trail of data that if someone wanted to piece it together, it could be picked up. Now, if you're a Facebook user, you'll see that there's now an opt-out in the app, certainly, and I presume it's on the website as well, to disable off-app tracking, to stop organisations who you use then being able to report back to Facebook what you were doing. And I recommend that you enable it. Maybe pause this video and go and do it now. But I don't know whether that was in the original privacy statement that Facebook had when you signed up. And I have to say, I don't know it because it's been a very, very long time since I read it. I read it, let's see, when Facebook was pretty much in its infancy back in 2007, 2008. And I thought some of these things may be nefarious, but hey, Facebook, surely it's not going to be that huge. What could possibly happen? I might go and read it again if I've got a long time. But the issue is nobody actually seems to read these things. And you should. The thing is, we would not have time to do anything else in our lives. If you read some of them, they are pages and pages and pages and pages. But often, as well as stating what they'll do with your data, sometimes they're a bit vague. Often they make sure that if you want any recourse, if something goes wrong, you can't go after them. You're often stuck in an arbitration somewhere in California. Class action lawsuits are no longer allowed. And they do control what you do. But you should read them. So go and take your phone, look at all the apps you've got on your phone, and think about it. Do you know, first off, do you know what data it's collecting from you when you use it or when you're not using it? Second issue, did you remember what you signed up to, what data you're allowing it to do? And go and check the privacy statements. They are hugely important. If something goes wrong, if there's a data breach, if you've misused data in some way, then almost certainly whoever's enforcing that data breach, whoever's coming after you to tell you off, slap your wrist, give you a massive fine, will look at on what terms you were collecting data from individuals and how you keep it secure and what you use it for. So the big scandal in Hong Kong a very, very long time ago, which brought about the change to law here, putting in fines for direct marketing without consent, was when Octopus, who are travel cards here, they had a reward scheme, but they were selling data from the reward scheme to insurance companies without telling the users. And the users realised when they whistleblow that they were getting phone calls from insurance companies. They didn't really know what was going on and how that had happened. But do check. I think it's really important. So two bits of homework for the holidays if you're on holiday. Check if you're an organisation that your privacy statement is up to date. That's number one. Number two, check what privacy statements you've signed up to. See what's happening with your data, and I guarantee you may be absolutely horrified what is out there. If you find anything particularly nefarious, do let me know. Either put a comment on the video, message me on LinkedIn, or drop me an email. I'd be glad to hear from it. But in the meantime, if you're on holiday, have a great time. I will be back soon. I may even be recording from a different location if all of the offices are back, which means no more records for you to all look at. Probably nothing quite as interesting to look at. Apologies. I mean, corporate backgrounds don't tend to be as fun. But anyway, I'm sure I'll come up with something interesting to talk about. Anyway, take care and have a good one. Stay safe.